All right. Good morning and welcome to the Employability Skills Series, where we explore the top skills employers are looking for in candidates. Each week, we will cover different topics with thoughts and insights from professionals in a variety of industries. I am your host, Megan Morrow, Senior Associate Director of Experiential Learning and Employer Relations. Today, I have Jessica Brown as my guest, and we will be discussing the importance of adaptability in the workplace. Jessica Brown serves as the promotion director of 97 Country My Max Music Talk 96.7 in Lakeland, Florida, where she manages contests, events, marketing initiatives, and community involvement across three local radio stations. Her role includes coordinating on-air promotions, planning large-scale events, and building meaningful partnerships through in-kind sponsorships and outreach opportunities. A graduate of the University of Tampa with a Bachelor of Arts in Communications and a minor in dance and theater, Jessica has always had a passion for planning and organizing, skills she's honed through years of experience in radio and leadership roles. She continues to stay current and inspired by attending industry seminars such as Country Radio Seminar and Country Cares for St. Jude. Deeply involved in her community, Jessica has served with Junior League of Greater Lakeland in multiple capacities, including as president from 2020 to 2021, and has volunteered with the United Way of Central Florida, St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, and Lakeland Park Church. Her contributions have earned her recognition, including the Heart of the League Award and Hall Communications Pat Bannerman Morgan Extra Mile Award. I think I said that right this time.
I think
Outside
so.
of, okay, good. Outside of work, Jessica enjoys traveling, all things Disney, movies, concerts, reading, and keeping up with her nieces and nephews. In 2023, she also began a new adventure as a travel agent, combining her love of organization and travel to help others plan memorable getaways. So, thank you, Jessica. Welcome, and good morning again.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome. So our topic, adaptability, but before we kind of dive into that, since our last talk we've been together, what's been going on with you? Anything new you'd like to share with us?
Yes, we have been Hall Communications for, well, I've been with the radio station for 21 years almost. And we recently got acquired by Mark Media. So that's a big change.
Okay.
That has come with some adaptability. Um, so yeah, that's a big one. That's it's been an adventure. It has been an adventure. And in the midst of all of that, which again, adaptability, I had to have surgery and
Oh no.
do a radiothon. And it's been quite the first quarter of the
Wow.
year.
Well, are
Yeah.
you okay?
So
Everything okay?
yes, yeah, I'm on the tail end of recovery, so that's
Okay.
good.
Good. Good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Surgery's never
we
fun.
no, we had to 2 weeks before. So one of our bigger projects is our St. Jude Radiothon, which is a 2 day on air, like wall to wall. We're trying to raise money for St. Jude, and that's my baby, that's my big project. And 2 weeks before I ended up in the hospital, and they're like, you have to have surgery. And so I was legitimately like from my hospital bed trying to prep. And then when I got home and was recovering, I was still like on my computer trying to prep. Um, and
Man.
I mean, I probably shouldn't have been. I probably should
Yeah.
have just been resting. But
Recovering. Yes.
at the same time, like you listen, the kids at St. Jude with cancer have it a whole lot worse than I had at that moment. So, um, yeah, it was an adventure. So we're doing
That's
good.
well, I have to speak just for a quick moment. My best friend's niece is a survivor, and St. Jude is now near and dear to my heart.
Yeah.
Because this little girl, it was just I'll just be real brief about it, but she basically like she was 3 years old and had they thought was just an inner ear infection. She was a little wobbly, like just kind of like it was a little crazy. Like all of a sudden she was just not doing well and kind of just like was having problems with her balance, and her parents, of course, took her to the, urgent care, took it, like,
Mhm.
and then like they were just like, take her home and love her. She's not going to make it to the end of the week.
Oh
It
no.
was that fast, and they were just like, and her parents were like, this is unacceptable, absolutely not,
Yeah.
and they just said no, she won't even make it to clinical trials, she's not going to make it to the end of the month, not to the end of the week. And her parents just fought and fought and fought, and St. Jude stepped in and said, get her down here. I'm gonna cry.
Oh
Well,
yeah.
needless to say, she never I mean, she never went home from that ER. Ended up in St. Jude, was 7 months in treatment and everything like that. And so she is now, that was a couple years ago. I danced with her at my best friend's wedding, and that was
Oh.
almost 4 years ago. And
Oh.
she is just a walking, talking miracle. She's had clean scans since. And this was one of those rare forms where there's like, I don't know, a 7% or something like that.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, one of our colleagues here, his son also had the same form, and he didn't make
Hmm.
it. And so, we've been loving on our colleague for that. But she is one of those just miracle cases, and now they go around and they speak for St. Jude and everything. And so, just one of those near and dear cases to my heart and soul. It's just amazing
Yeah.
what that
It and
research does.
it's one of those things that like I could literally talk about it all day long.
I'm
But
sure.
yeah, no, you hear cases like that because St. Jude takes the worst of the worst.
Yes.
And they've developed so many protocols for cancers that are a little bit more common. And so like, thankfully, obviously you never want your kid to be diagnosed with
No.
anything like that. But now protocols that have been developed at St. Jude, like if you get leukemia, a lot of leukemia protocols were developed by St. Jude, and now like you can get that treatment at your home hospital. Um,
Mm.
so they share their research freely, and there's never a bill for care.
Yes.
It's incredible. It's an incredible organization. So that
Yeah.
was why I was recovering from surgery, typing on my computer because I was
Well,
like, we have to raise money for the kids.
yes, well, yeah. I mean, I so support it. I mean, I get it, but yeah, you also take
Yeah.
care of yourself too. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I can see what you're saying. Like, I gotta adapt. I've got to adapt because this was obviously something that was super important to you.
Mhm.
And like I tell my students all the time, like if it's important to you, you find a way. You find a way,
Yeah.
and like you clearly adapted to your situation, which is going to be a very kind of shameless little plug into our topic.
Yeah,
You found a
absolutely.
way. You adapted. So. Let's talk about adaptability. What is it, and why is it important? So, would you define it in your own words for us, so we can kind of dive into this?
So for me, this is probably not the Webster's dictionary, but for me, adaptability is preparing, planning, but knowing that anything can change, anything can happen. Like you prepare for everything that you can possibly think of so that when the unexpected happens, you can roll with it.
Hmm.
Um, you're not going to be able to plan for everything, and I have some examples of that, but um, you have to, if you're prepared, then you can just like, all right, let's pivot. Let's figure this out. And for me, like adaptability is okay, well, we're gonna figure this out. We're gonna figure this out, we're gonna make this happen. And a lot of times it's on the fly.
Hmm.
So figuring it out on the fly is what I consider to be adaptability.
Yeah, awesome. As an educator, I'm going to tell you what, I've had to do that so many times. Maybe, the projector's not working, so my
Hmm.
PowerPoint slides aren't going to, project, or a guest speaker for whatever reason didn't show up. Maybe they were stuck in traffic or they were sick at the last minute. We just had mock interviews, which you've participated, in the
Hmm.
past. Sometimes a student doesn't show up or an employer doesn't show up. And so, okay, we've got to shift, we got to adapt, we got to figure out how we're going to fill those
Yep.
holes. So yeah, it's thinking on the fly. What are we gonna do? Because the wheels can't fall off, and you can't just
Right.
go, all right, we're just not going to do that, because people are depending on you to keep moving. And it's
Right.
okay too. I think I'd like to also point out the fact that it's okay to say, this isn't what we had planned. We don't have to always like look like we have it together, but we have to have it
Right.
together.
Right. Right. Like you have to be able to think quickly to
Hmm.
say, okay, that wasn't supposed to happen. How are we going to fix it? Like,
Hmm.
or how are we going to make this happen? And I think that, and I'm sure that our students have figured this, I think that COVID taught us a lot of that, like a lot of us, that we
Yeah.
had to adapt to
Oh
the
yeah.
world
Oh
shutting
yeah.
down.
For sure.
Like that's the biggest, probably most relatable, that kids were having to go from in the classroom to online, and teachers were having to figure out how to teach online. Um, a lot of people were having to go from like in their office buildings to working from home. You mentioned that I was part of the junior league. I actually became president of the league June 1st, 2020.
Hmm.
And so I had to figure out how are we going to run this year, where all of our programs and all of our meetings have always been in person and hands-on, to how can we still get our work done but in a different way. So that's probably
Sure.
the most relatable for everybody that's alive now, that COVID, like the entire world had to adapt.
Yes.
So, and then like as things became more normal, we're keeping some of that, going a little bit back to the way things were. And it's just kind of like that. I think we're still kind of figuring out how things work best.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, that's probably, I would say, for everyone, the biggest example of, oh, okay, well, it's just like a hard stop. Now, how
Yes.
do we keep the world going?
Oh, for sure. I know. 'Cause yeah, COVID is a great example because I mean, at the time, my kids were in sixth grade and kindergarten, and they went on spring break and never went back.
Hmm.
And as a single mom, it was on me. They
Yeah.
were home. They were all of a sudden now on virtual, and they were home. They were just home nonstop, and now I had to work from home, and so I had two kids on Zoom, so I had to figure out I had to get laptops, and so now I had three laptops going, and so they were on iPads, they were laptops, and I was also in grad school too at the time, so there was a lot going on,
Yeah.
and even though I was an educator, I was never a little person educator. I taught high school. So now I'm like
Hmm.
I'm teaching and I'm trying to teach my little people and I'm trying to still like them at the end
Yeah.
of the
Hmm.
day.
Right.
So
Right. Hmm.
there was a lot going on. So yeah, adaptability, being able to roll with it, being able to still be, especially with a 5-year-old on the computer. Oh my God. That
So
was
I
not
actually
easy.
have a funny story about that. My niece started kindergarten August of 2020.
Okay.
And my sister and brother-in-law decided, okay, well, for the first quarter, we're gonna do virtual. Like, we're not sure how all this is still going. And so she was virtual, and some of the classes had gone, some of the school had gone back in person, but they were like, we're just gonna try this out. So my mom, who was a preschool teacher, kind of helped with the
Okay.
online schooling. And um it was interesting because like there were times where they would not be on the computer to have recess or to have PE, and it was like whatever. So they had a little break, and it was supposed to be um like PE and then lunch. Well, my mom had ordered pizza, what a lunch, and it was not getting there. So um anyways, like they decided to go swimming before for PE. And so my little 5-year-old niece gets back on the computer and her hair's wet. And she goes, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I had I had swimming for PE and I just got out of the pool. And her teacher's like, well, that's a really great PE. It sounds like fun. And then when I did have PE with a PE teacher, it was quite amusing. There were a couple of times that I was there listening to the PE teacher try to encourage my niece, who was not thrilled with the situation. Come on, Shelby, you can do it. So yeah, I felt those teachers, especially the little ones, bless them for trying to make
They
that
tried.
through.
They tried so hard. They tried so hard. I know
Mhm.
because my son also had to have speech therapy. And, again, trying to do speech therapy over Zoom with a
Right,
5-year-old.
right. Yeah.
Bless him.
Especially when there's delays, yeah. So
Oh my gosh. Um, So let me ask you this. Can you think of a time where maybe somebody, in a work situation on your team or something like maybe that displayed great adaptability in a specific situation and how it, greatly benefited your team in a positive way?
Um, yes, that happens all the time. A lot of times I think the biggest, and this is, I mean, because obviously the big things that I can think of are things that I was involved with. Um, a lot of times the most times where we have to be adaptable or when things happen are when we have events.
Hmm.
And there was one time we were doing this truck giveaway, and it was like we're in a dealership. It's like this big, you've got this whole dealership full of people. There's a whole family festival happening outside. And the idea was that we were doing like a white Santa, like a secret Santa or like a white elephant gift exchange. And
Hmm.
the contestants were playing this game, but there was a key in every bag. And once the game was ended, they took out their key, and whoever could unlock the truck won it.
Oh, wow.
So,
I
yeah.
would play the game.
So, I mean, like you could end up with a really great prize, but a dummy key, or you could have like, and the keys were completely random. Like I wouldn't even, like, I didn't even know which one was there. So it was like 20 gift bags. And what we had to do is we'd have the 20 gift bags, we'd have the 20 contestants, and I would drop a key in each bag. They would see me like stir them up and then just randomly drop keys in the bag. Well, it's like almost like a live game show with this whole like, and as we're going, I'm looking at the bags and I'm counting them and I'm counting how many people are on stage, and I'm like, we have the wrong amount of bags. So on the opposite side, I like signaled to someone and I was like, can you count the bags? And they were like, we're missing one. And so um I like signaled to the DJ that was up on the stage and I'm like, hey, pause. Like, we need to pause this. Um, and so they were like, oh, we're just gonna take a break. And so they're just riffing, like they're just asking questions, whatever. And so I basically like we verify like there is a bag missing. We don't know how this happened. I suspect because there were a lot of kids around that a little kid may have just like swiped a bag thinking it was Christmas. You know what I mean? Like it's
Sure.
Christmas, whatever. Um, Thankfully there was nothing in we did figure out that there was nothing important in that bag, like as far as a prize. It actually was a little card that said, you've won this, go redeem it at our tent. But I'm looking at like the owner of our station and the owner of the dealership, and they're like, well, what are we gonna do?
Hmm.
And I said, this is what we're gonna do. And so like I went to the contestants, I was like, hey, we are missing a bag. And thankfully the contestants had my back. They were like, no, no, we saw you count. Like they knew that there had been 20 bags. Um, so I said, this is what's gonna happen. We're gonna continue the game. And the owner of the dealership said, whoever doesn't end up with a bag, I'll give them $500,
Oh,
which
wow.
that's a pretty good
Yeah,
consolation prize,
sure.
which is very kind. Like they're like, let's do this. I said, if nobody opens the car, then the person who doesn't have the bag wins. And they were all like, everybody had like, because in those situations, you're dealing with a really top dollar prize. Like you have to have everybody on board. You have to really lay it out. And so they were like, yeah. And again, thankfully, all the contestants had my back. They're like, no, we saw you. You had 20 bags. You had 20 keys. Somebody has done something. And so, um, we go through, and at this time, like I'm sweating, my assistant's sweating, everybody is like sweating, like what's gonna happen? So we go through the game, we line up, and we're getting down, and it doesn't matter how often you do this. Like when you get past the 10th person, you start sweating. Like,
Sure.
please let this car open. And especially at this time, I'm like, please let this truck open because if not, yes, everybody has said that they were okay with it. But if the one person who doesn't have the key and can't prove, like they could have opened the truck, you could get into something. So I want to say it was like the 14th person opened the truck. And I literally said, oh, thank you, Lord. Because at least, like, I think I shouted it, like, thank you, Lord. Because I was like, what am I going to do if the one key that opens the truck was in the bag that's been taken? So that was one of those moments where everybody had to like be on the top of their game and we had to think fast and get more than just, one or two people. Like there were probably 100 people in that dealership plus like 2,000 outside. Like it could have gotten a little ugly.
Sure.
Um, so that was probably one of the most scary situations, but also one that like we all were like, it was all cylinders firing because we all just sort of like, okay, this is what we're going to do. This is how it's going to work. And we made it happen. And I was never so glad as when that truck door opened. I was like, thank you, Jesus, because that's a situation I didn't want to have to figure out, on the back
No,
end.
my anxiety is like actually up a little bit just
Yeah.
hearing your story. Like I'm in it. Like you paint such a
Oh, yeah.
picture. I'm there
Yeah.
with you, like sweating with you.
Oh yeah, no, it's like it's always those situations. Like it's always there was another time we would do this is pre-COVID, we haven't done one since, but we would do bus trips. And so winners would win the chance to go on a bus with us to a concert and we would have lunch, go to the concert and um enjoy the concert and then get back on the bus and then we would have a midnight breakfast. And um, like for if it was there were sometimes where it was just one bus and that was a little bit easier to manage, but there were other times where we would have two buses going to Raymond James Stadium.
Hmm.
And I perfected our system as we went along, but earlier on, I was like, oh, meet here. Well, I would give them all the instructions. And unfortunately, like Wi-Fi or cellular service wasn't working that great. So like when I found out that our original plan wasn't going to work, I had to try to text out to everybody, hey, meet at this gate, not this gate.
Hmm.
And you've got thousands of people leaving a stadium. Some people aren't getting the message. And then we all get on the bus and realize there's 8 people missing.
Mm.
It was four couples. And so I'm getting a phone call from the the studio and they had called and been like, hey, the bus left us.
Oh
So
no.
myself and my intern, she's like, I'm missing two couples. And I'm like, I'm missing two couples. She's like, what are we gonna do? I'm like, we're gonna go find them. And so we had two bus loads of people and we both jump off the bus and start running back to the stadium and are literally just running around until we finally found everybody. And I mean, like, that's all you can do. Like,
That's all
and
you
they
can
were,
do.
of course, they were like, you left us. I was like, we did not leave you. The buses are still parked. Like, and they're like, we did what you said. And I'm like, listen, I'm sorry. Cause that's the other thing, in those moments, people are very hyped. And so
Hmm.
they were angry. Those 8 people were really angry. And I'm like, we didn't leave you. I sent a text. The text probably didn't go through. Like I was having issues. But it's gonna be fine. Like, let's just get on the bus. I think I offered them like tickets to another concert later on in the year just to kind of appease them.
Sure.
Um, so like and you do have to do that sometimes just to like bring down because they were anxious. They're like, we're stuck in Tampa. How are we gonna get home? Um, but yeah, it's always those moments where you're like, okay. And my intern looked, the poor thing just looked at me. She's like, what are we gonna do? I was like, we're gonna go find them. Let's go. Like,
We're gonna
we're
figure it
gonna
out.
go, we're gonna run around Raymond James until we get every single one of them. So,
That's a great example too. You're adapting to, you meant to leave. You have a bus full of people too that are probably like, "Hey, we want to go,"
yep.
you know, but you're like, "We're all in this together, so we're going to have to adapt," you know. I know we're kind of already getting up on time. You and I could talk for hours.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, do you have an example of maybe when somebody wasn't able to adapt to a situation and maybe how that was like a negatively impacted your environment?
We do. We often will have there's times where we'll have clients where let's just say, and I'll give an example of we had this was years ago, but this was years ago when our vans used to have like the big poles that would go up in the air. They were called Martys
Okay.
to do the live broadcast. Now it's basically cell phone signal. But those things are dangerous. Like they go like 30 feet in the air. So you have to be careful. Like we had to be careful of making sure that we weren't under any trees, that we weren't under any like power lines and stuff like that. And so there were several times that we would have clients who are like, oh, we need you to park here. And we're like, okay, well, we can't because there's trees or there's power lines. And you're at this person's business, they paid for you to be there and trying to talk that through to them because they've had it in their mind of this is how it's going to go. And we're like, or even worse, like if there's lightning, we got to bring the thing down. And at the time, we didn't have all of the ways that we do now to kind of like, just send it in on a cell phone. Um, so there were times where we would like, okay, we can't do this live, like we're gonna have to pause. And a lot of business owners or managers would get really angry about that. And so you have to kind of like talk them through it.
Hmm.
And there were times where they just wouldn't be happy. And they're like, no, I'm like, there's an actual like hurricane outside. We cannot have a 30-foot pole that's on top of our van, like sticking up. And there was a couple of times because in our business, the salesperson, like the salesperson is the CEO of the event, but the engineer is the CEO of safety. And so there was a time where I was an engineer and the salesperson's like, no, keep it up. And I was like, okay, at this point, I am saying it needs to come down. If you're refusing, then everything is on you at this point.
Hmm.
Um, and I was like, you are liable for all of this because I'm like at this point, I'm no longer touching the van. I'm not touching the equipment. It's not safe. I've said it's not safe. I'm sending an email to say that this is not safe, but you're refusing. And you do like you just have to sometimes stick to your guns
Hmm.
because safety is paramount. Um, but a lot of times it's clients that don't understand how all of it works, and you have to
Sure.
kind of walk them through it.
Yeah, I think sometimes that I think you just nailed it. Like it's the level of understanding. I don't think that people mean to just dig their heels in. I mean, there are
Mhm.
people, don't get me wrong. There are people that just have to be like, this is my way or no way.
Mhm.
But I think the majority is sometimes just lack of knowledge, just lack of the
Right.
education because they don't work in your industry. They don't understand. You're not just being, you're not just sticking to your gun saying this is
Right.
just how we do it. You're saying there's a rhyme and a reason. I can't
Mhm.
have this pull up. It's a safety thing, or we don't fit, or like you said, it's the weather. Like I'm not just saying that you can't do it just for the sake of you can't do it. Same with me, like with my grading policy. Like I have there's a reason why I close assignments for a certain reason. There's a reason why I assign a particular assignment. There's a reason why I do things, there's a method to my madness, if you will.
Right.
And you might not understand it, and I'll explain it to you, but let me tell you why. And I'm not being rigid for no reason. Let me explain it to
Mhm.
you. But I think for the most part, sometimes when people like kind of dig in, it's just lack of knowledge, lack of
Yeah.
understanding.
Yeah, and I try never to pull this card, but I've had a couple of interns that I've said, "Hey, we need to do it this way," and they've tried to suggest, a different way of doing it, which is usually it's like easier for them.
Sure.
And I think I've like twice in all my time, there were two interns and one was arguing with me and I said, "Okay, I don't like to pull this card. How many times have you done this? How many times have you done this type of event?" And he wouldn't answer. And the other attorney was like, "I haven't ever done this." I was like, "Would you like to guess how many times I have?"
Yeah.
And I was like, I understand what you're saying, and I'm always like, what we can always discuss this, but I have tried all these different ways. This is the way that works best. Um, and a lot of times you're not like when you're in this type of field or the type of position I'm in, you're not doing it for the easement of you on the back on the front side. You're doing it so that it's easier to follow through for everyone else.
Mm,
So a lot of
that's
times you'll
smart.
put in the extra effort so that you're not having to catch up when you're live, like in the event or whatever. You have to do all the preparation ahead of time. So yeah, I don't like to pull out that card, but I have had to
Mhm.
a couple of times to be like, guess what? I've been doing this longer than you've been in school. So
Well, it's like the
thank you
mom
for listening.
card, very rarely have I ever said because I said so, but
Right.
occasionally,
You got to
because I
pull
had
that
to
card out.
just do
I
it.
do have more experience than you in life. So yeah.
Well, Jessica, we are up on our time. Do you have any parting words of wisdom for our students who are going to come back and watch this episode later on?
Um, I would say kind of like I did at the beginning, plan for everything you can possibly think of because the things that you couldn't have possibly thought of will happen. And having everything else lined up will help you will give you the freedom to be able to fix the problem that you couldn't have seen coming.
That's great. Yeah, proper preparation prevents poor performance, but even the best laid plans are going
Hmm.
to go awry. So have a
Hmm.
backup plan. Don't be afraid to improvise, and don't be afraid to
Yep.
admit, hey, this was not what I had planned,
No, this was
you
not in
know,
the plan.
and it's okay to be like, hey guys, give me a minute. And I like to use humor a lot because it makes me look human and it
Yeah.
makes me relatable. Like I'll be in class and the projector's not working and I'll just be like, hold please. Or I'll go
Yeah.
technical difficulties and I'll do
Yeah.
something silly, or something like just to let my students know, like, I'm not perfect. I
Yeah.
don't have it all together, or especially like if I'm doing something like that's like I'll be the first to say I'm directionally challenged. I'll be like, I'm not Lewis or Clark, so I don't know which direction
Right.
I'm pointing or something silly,
Right.
So don't be afraid to admit you're human. Don't be afraid to say like, this isn't what I had planned. Give me a second. Let me figure this out. Let me, dig in my bag of tricks and figure something else out. But always have a backup plan. Always plan for multiple things just in case, the technology is not there or your guest speaker doesn't show up or an alternate route, especially if you're going to
Hmm.
drive on I-4.
Yep.
Holy
Yep.
moly.
Yep. Or if a bag with a key goes missing.
Our
Like,
bag and key. That was a crazy story.
yeah.
Well, Jessica,
So
thank you so much. I always enjoy having you on these calls. I really
I love
appreciate your
doing
time
this.
and your thoughts and expertise on these topics. So thank you so much, and I look forward to having
Absolutely.
you on our next call.
Absolutely. Thank you. All
All right. Thank you. Have
right.
a great rest
All
of
right.
your day. And thank
All
you
right.
all
You
of you
too.
that are going to watch this later on. Bye.
Bye.
Now I just got